Stand and say the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, motion to approve the agenda as presented. Thank you, Aaron. Second? Second, Joel. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Conflicts disclosure. None. Public communications. I thought about bringing Philadelphia Eagles jerseys here for everybody tonight and just opening the forum, see if anybody wanted to discuss the Super Bowl, but does it appear that's not the way it's going to be?
Wasn't much to discuss.
It was a great game. That's right. Thanks, Larry. All right, so we got that part out of the way. All right, motion to approve the minutes as presented. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the financial statements as presented in the board packet.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the claims as presented in your board packet. Thank you, Aaron. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion?
I have a couple items that just maybe a little whatever, but I noticed on the gas that here, since we shut the boiler and everything down, and I was looking at that, and I've had a number of people talk to me about why you want to tear it down, this or that, why not leave it. We used 25% less units of our gas this February billing cycle compared to last billing cycle. Well, you can look at, well, what's the reason for that? Well, then I looked at the Armory. The Armory, in your February billing cycle, we used 5% more than we did last year. So it's, I was looking, gee, is it just because that's or whatever? No, and you can't go by price because our gas price.
Correct, but the
changes.
units you can, absolutely.
But the units, I didn't realize there was that much difference till I looking at the numbers. It was kind of strange. And you go back you can go back as many years as you want. This would be a comparison because the boiler wasn't fired this year, and last year it was, and we heated the same thing last year.
As well as this year.
Of course, and even the resting room with that furnace in there would be in your February billing cycle too, right? Yeah, so it's.
Well, and that's one of the, Larry, that's a good point.
When they said years ago that old boiler was efficient, I don't know if it was or not.
Well, they also said, remember when we talked to the ISG, correct?
Yep.
They said that wing is extremely inefficient for heat and holding heat in there. So, I mean, that's one of the things that
Yeah, it is.
is a good point to bring up. And just so the public is aware, in our board packets, ever since I came on the board over 15 years ago, Lori always provides us with, it's 4 years, correct? Or 4 years of history of what we use for electric and natural gas, both at the main facility here on campus and then the Armory. And so we can go back and compare what our usage is to determine whether we're getting out of sync. And it is a very good thing. 15 years, when I first came on the board, I was looking at that with the electricity, and that's where we discovered Northwestern Energy had put the wrong panel box, wrong meter on the kitchen versus the ag wing when we had done the elementary remodel 15 plus years ago. It amounted to a $36,000 refund to us that they had overcharged us, and it was just because Lori puts this information in there, and we were able to compare it and say, hey, what happened here? So there's a lot of good information in your board packets, and there's a lot of information that we can provide the public, and thanks, Lori, for doing that. And Larry, you're right on the money. I mean, I look at that every month just to make sure.
Too cold to go fishing.
It's good to look at to see if there is something that is off, because every dollar adds up.
I think it's important to note too, I don't know how long ago it's been, but we used to have 2 separate meters for the natural gas. And we eventually put a pipeline on the middle school
That was rough.
so that we could get peak usage on 1 meter. So, because the elementary was on a meter and then the rest of the building was on a meter. And that's probably saved us quite a bit over the last 15 years or however long it's been in place. And that was a suggestion that somebody,
I think it was when Randy was on the board and we started looking at this.
he said, I think he was doing the same thing. He was looking at the fact that we had 2 meters and, hey, we can do some efficiencies here.
So you did make the joke, we took away Christmas vacations from Northwestern Energy that year. All right, anything else you had, Larry, with the claims?
No, I would just,
Anybody else for claims? All in favor say aye.
I,
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve volunteer coaches for, and I'll do this individually, if you can just give me 1 second, for track. We have Kevin Duenwald, Jordan Bauer, Jet Prinz, and Aaron Keller.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
I,
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve volunteer coaches for golf, Mike Ninke.
So moved.
Thank you, Aaron. Second, Marty. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
I,
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the contract with Amy Roth for junior high oral interpretation.
so moved.
Thank you, Marty. Second, or excuse me, Larry. Second, Aaron. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
I,
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the supplemental budget as provided in your board packet.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Or was that you, Aaron? I apologize. Saying it at the same time. It's hard for me to hear. Thank you, Aaron. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Hey, Tom, just a second, I'm trying to get to it here again.
Yep.
So that was for the catering donation, that's the flag in the armory. It's fun to be down there watching games and looking across the other side, because they're up looking at the flag up on the wall, and then all of a sudden that thing comes down, and you can just see them talking, wow. You know, it's just really a neat deal, and then obviously the wind deal, you know, for the backboards and the playground, what just awesome donations to enhance and improve our schools, so.
But, you know, that's $56,000 of donations within that. $56,000 of donations. I mean, we just got to remember, that's 1 month's donations. You know, people in this area step up, and it's, you know, whether it's the Kading family with their generous donations, $10,000. There was over $27,000 that came in as to payments towards the playground project, Day County Wind, the elementary basketball hoops. I mean, there's just different things that are coming across the board, and it's pretty awesome. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve Northwestern Energy contract.
so moved.
Thank you, Larry. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to discuss old wing issues. Thank you, Aaron. Second?
Second.
Joel, second. Discussion?
I probably could start out on that. I've had conversation with Patty a couple of times since our last board meeting. Mostly what we've been discussing is our timeline. She's aware that we need to provide some sort of a plan or proposal to our insurance company by April 1st. What we've discussed most recently is that it would be nice to have that plan for our March board meeting so that you guys can review, discuss, and approve. And so I think that's what the goal is. She will have engineers and herself coming up probably next week or early the following week after that, and try to put some things together. I will say that our discussion is because we have so many things that are kind of unknown as to whether we're going to keep the wrestling room, keep the 50s wing, or do selective demo, those types of things. They're going to come up, do what they can for a review. She did say that selective demo is probably not going to be very efficient financially. She said just from the get-go, because it usually is not. And so I asked her, I said, well, what do we do in the meantime? She says, well, the board eventually is going to have to decide, are we keeping the facility? And if we are, then you address the issues that you need to with the insurance, which we've already known that. And if we're demoing the facility, if we demo and we demo sooner, she would say, demo everything. Don't go the selective route. They will still review those options for us, but her initial take on it is selective demo is not going to be all that beneficial for the district. So I asked her if we could put together a plan where we have actual plans for demolition, and we don't do anything right now, but maybe do it in the summer of 2027, giving us a couple of years, so we can still use the restroom. One question that I've had personally is, will we have a solution for a wrestling room in November of 2027? I'm more pessimistic or realistic, whatever you want to call it, and I would say that's doubtful, in my personal opinion. So then, putting together a plan 2 years from now to do demo, in our conversation with Patty, she just kind of said, really, if you're going to decide to keep the wrestling room for any amount of time, you're probably going to need to address the issues that you need to for the insurance company, and not worry about putting together a full-fledged plan for demolition until you get to that point, and then do it all at the same time later. Probably not what you want to hear, but that's our initial conversations. And some of that may change when the engineers come up. And I did ask them if they can have their structural engineer review the situation down in the boiler room to see if there's any possible different recommendations that they might have that might be not the same as what the RISE engineers had, just to see if there's other options where we could address the issues that the insurance company may have. Ultimately, it comes down to, we've got to put something together on paper and give it to our insurance company. They're not going to, this is my take now, they're not going to tell us, yeah, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or don't do this, or don't do that. They're going to say yes or no to the plan. If we fix everything, and it's everything that was on their concerns, my guess is they will say, yes, you can continue to have that facility. If we don't address everything, there's a chance that they'll say, okay, you need to address this at least in this amount, or no, we're not going to insure.
When would our insurance quote, when would we get that? Prior to the 1st of July, or?
Yes, we get it, it's usually like in June.
Yeah, it's
We
not
don't
very
get
early.
it way early.
I think it's like the end of June.
If something's done mid-year, would the quote change at all?
As far as like,
If we get a quote in June,
I think you'd have to have a contingency written in your renewal in order for that to happen.
You talking renewal, Larry, like
Yeah.
when they re-up us and then
Yeah.
we apply new rates at that point in time? I would assume that, does that follow the same time as like July to July?
that's what our plan is, yes.
Okay,
I
so
mean, it's
they,
like if you sell a car, you drop that,
yeah,
I was just wondering if we knew what the actual insurance was on that portion.
On that portion of the building?
Yeah. I mean, we know what it is per month for the whole thing, but I'm just curious.
Because, yeah, we would probably have to talk with Kim about that. You mean, so like total valuation, because, that's how we're assessed
Mhm.
now. And so if we take off part of it, would that change?
Yeah, I mean, if it's,
I mean, I would think it would, but I don't know if it's no different than if we get rid of a vehicle. I call her and tell her and it comes off,
yeah, I'm just wondering, because,
but I don't know that for sure. If she's watching, she'll be texting me.
So I did explain to Patty that I think what our goal here, for you folks as a board, is that we would like some sort of a proposal or plan from experts, the architectural firm and the engineers, because I believe that's going to be a little bit better for the insurance company to use to make their decision versus us coming up with a plan. And so Patty's aware of that, and I want to make sure that she gives us some options, even if it's selective, but our initial conversation is that it's probably not going to be a very economical way to do it if you have to do it.
So the better option is,
The better option is to do it all at once, and she's not saying we have to do that now, we can decide not to, but if you're gonna do demo, it's probably gonna be more economical to do the full-fledged demo all at one time, where you take care of the boiler room, the wrestling room, and the 50s room all at the same time, if that's what we're going to do. I did request an estimate from Schwann Electric regarding the electrical that was in red ink for the stage, the wrestling room, and then the 50s wing. There's no heater in the weight room, so I don't know how much the heater part is, and I apologize if that frustrates you that I asked him to look at that, but we walked into the weight room off the stage, and I showed him some of the boxes that are in the tunnel there, and we looked at some of the boxes across from the old fax room. I just wanted to make sure we were covering all of our bases with what they had in the inspection, and he's included an electric heater for the weight room that would work for that size of a room. The total amount is $15,800. That's to take care of getting rid of the electrical that's red line for us, and then refeeding the lights and power, or lights and outlets and power to the heater. Everything we have currently with power in the wrestling room would be covered in that.
so those are the red flags from their inspection.
Yes. The biggest part is getting rid of the stuff that is an electrical concern. And I had told you that we were looking at a $12,000 to $15,000. I didn't have a heater. We didn't talk about a heater for the weight room. It's just the fact that we were in there. He goes, well, this isn't heated in here. And I said, no, and there's not a lot of heat that just, goes in there. So I would say the temperature in the weight room is probably 55 degrees in there with the doors open on the stage and getting some heat from the... So that wasn't in your guys' discussion or our plan or anything. We were just looking at the wrestling room. So there's a little extra in here, but I don't know how much that heater is. I don't know if it's $800 or if it's $1,000. Or if you want me to get that breakdown, we can, if that's not part of our solution.
Lori, does the underwriter send out a risk control person prior to renewal that analyzes the facilities and does a walkthrough? Do they do that at all?
I don't know if they did last year, I'm assuming because of everything that took place, but usually Kim comes to my office and we go through.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the actual insurance company. Do they send?
Do not see them.
So last year they did, because the photo of the boiler room, the photo of that overhead thing that was in the science lab, and then there were 3 things that were on our correction list. And then I think we had some custodial things that were in front of them.
Yeah, but I don't think they do that on they might now, but I think last year was
They
the
were
first
here
time
last
they
year,
did
and
that.
that's what led to
That's
all
what
of
triggered
this.
this.
If they do come again, could we have the Buildings and Grounds Committee come on the walkthrough with, just to help ask questions? Larry, what do you think? And get a feel for what they're thinking?
I would bet they're gonna come, and we can just talk with
I'm gonna ask
with
him.
Kim regarding, when they do, we would like to have a discussion and do the walkthrough together.
Sometimes you can get a feeling for, I just did it with our own guy 2 days ago. I mean, sometimes you can talk to them guys a little bit and kind of figure out where they're coming from. Then my other comment is, I think we need to remember, we need to focus. We've spent a lot of money already down here, getting the old wrestling room and stuff ready, but all the costs, in my opinion, to date, are necessary costs to do the demolition. We've moved piping, we've moved electrical stuff, we've moved the things that we have to do to move forward. But we better just be careful here that now when we start spending, in my opinion, the money we're gonna start spending from now on this electrical, it's arbitrary. Because if the building comes down, we wasted the money. So I think, and maybe it's worth spending the money if we can keep that facility open for an extended period of time, but I think we all just need to be aware that, in my opinion, to date, the money we've spent has been good dollars spent because we're gonna have to do it anyways. But I think we're kind of getting to that point where the money that we're gonna keep spending down there, we aren't gonna get that money back.
The number one comment I received after our meeting on Bearcat TV, and I think a lot of people watched it, a lot of people, and then after reading the article in the Reporter and Farmer was, don't invest good money after bad. That was the number one comment I received. They didn't have answers.
No,
Let me be clear, nobody gave the perfect answer, but that was just their comment, for what it's worth. I don't think we have anything to decide tonight, just further discussion. We'll always keep it on as an action item if need be, and hopefully by our next board meeting, what is that date?
Not hopefully, we
March 10th?
need a plan.
It needs to be here.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Any other discussion on Old Wing? All right. Discussion items, superintendent report, Dr. Block.
first thing I want to mention is that we did announce the support staff member of the year, which is Lori Orozco. She's our high school custodian. So we honored her today, and then we also announced the teacher of the year for this year, and that's Mrs. Jenna Sinner, high school science teacher. And so Jenna, as our selected teacher of the year, will also move on to represent our region, and then if she moves on from there, she can potentially represent the state. I think there's 7 different regions, so there's 7 different teachers of the year that vie for the South Dakota Teacher of the Year. So congratulations to them. We certainly appreciate everything that they do. And we appreciate the nominations each year that we have for a variety of staff members. It's nice to see that. So, Lori, did you bring the certificate in?
They were presented.
They were presented, so you should have certificates.
You didn't see the presentation?
She just tossed one too. As always, I truly appreciate what you guys are willing to do on an annual basis. Sometimes it's a thankless job, sometimes it's a stressful job, and so thank you for what you do to support our school system. It's nice to have folks within the community that are willing to serve in this capacity. So it's, we're honoring school board members during, is it this week or next week is the official week, I think?
Next week.
It's the official week next week, so we appreciate what you do and thank you for it.
Well, it's interesting you do that because Pierre doesn't, I'm sure you all got your notice yesterday via email. Pierre doesn't think the same way. So Pierre, right now, there is a bill in the House, 1185, which prohibits a school district from joining an education association that provides lobbying services, which is every school district in the state of South Dakota. This is a bill saying, shut down the Association of South Dakota School Boards. That's all it is. It's just one bill to say the South Dakota School Board should no longer have a voice. And so they specifically they start talking about local control. They don't want us to have local control. That is 100% pure, and it passed out of committee 8-7. It will be spoken on. Yeah, I got this email last night.
It'll go to the floor.
It'll go to the floor. It passed Tuesday, on February 12th, which would have been yesterday, on an 8-7 vote, and expected to be debated. That's ridiculous. Just like, the Association of South Dakota School Boards, Larry, you've been to their meeting, right? Joel, have you gone?
Mm-hmm.
Marty? Aaron, those are good meetings, and you get a lot of different voices. First year I went was the year that there was actually some people that didn't think we should be wasting time in the morning to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know if you recall that. There was actually that movement out there, like 12, 13 years ago, and just says you don't need that. And I got fired up at that meeting, and it got everybody to agree, and the South Dakota Association of South Dakota School Boards then came out and said, we're against that, that type of bill. That's exactly what we want to have in place. I mean, we do have our voice being heard out there, and boy, I just feel like Pierre's putting us in some awfully tough positions, making sure that a school board can't talk to their legislators, and at the same time, here's your, 1.25, what's the percentage they're looking at? I mean, this is a lot of stuff that is coming from Pierre, definitely is gonna have a major effect on your schools, and, I mean, everybody else that cares about having local voices and local controls, you may not agree with every decision that your school board makes or your city council makes, but they most certainly should be out in Pierre lobbying for us, because Webster's also not Sioux Falls. And where are the majority of our legislators coming from nowadays? The bigger areas, Sioux Falls, Rapid City. Us smaller communities are again getting pushed out by this type of thing. I was really disappointed to see this when I got this notice. So if you care about local concerns, you should pick up the phone and call our legislators and tell them this is a bad bill.
I will say I'd move on to legislative updates and then jump back to professional development, but I went out to Pierre for the superintendent's legislative day last Wednesday, and I'm not going to deny it to anybody, it was absolutely disheartening. I felt like it was a waste of my day to go out there. Now, that being said, it's part of the process is to go and meet with people, contact people, but it was just disheartening. And on the eve of Tuesday of last week, I was at the basketball game at Great Plains Lutheran, and I got a text message from other superintendents, and it was a House bill. I don't even know what the number is because I don't care what the number was, and it should be. I'm sure that one's gone. A representative who is from Rapid City proposed a bill to defund the Huron School District.
Yes.
I mean, I passed it around the basketball game, and I just thought, these folks are all, I'm gonna get a little fired up here probably, but these folks are the ones that are pissed and moaning about how we're using taxpayers' money, but we're gonna waste time in the legislative session for something ridiculous like that?
It was.
That's ridiculous. And if it's possible to completely remove somebody from legislation because of that, I think he should be removed. He was reprimanded by the Republican Party, and he was maybe not ousted. He was not removed from the
He lost
committee.
his chair in the committee.
No, he didn't lose his chair. He still was able to vote, but he couldn't speak anymore.
Right, he lost
They
his chair,
didn't
but he was
remove
still a
him, so he
member.
could still vote.
Still a member.
Which I just say, oh, well, slap him on the hand. So, this is the kind of garbage that's going on in our legislation. I mean, it's one thing to have legislation for the dessert of South Dakota and have a little fun, but to defund a school district, if that's your purpose or that's your means to get your point across, you are abusing our legislative process.
Yeah.
Abusing it. And I don't know who the guy is. I don't care. He's probably some great big lawyer or something like that. Could probably put me in the ground fast and I could say goodbye. But it's just a waste of our time and taxpayers' money for some personal issue. So I was disappointed. So much so that I thought, why even waste my time to go to Pierre? We go and we listen to all the stuff. The ones that are voting, they have their agendas, and nobody's getting along between the two parties. Imagine that. It's disheartening. It is so disheartening.
So, okay, on that same subject, I'm a member of the AGC that talks to our lobbyists. And that night, when that went out, my email blew up at that game. And the Contractors Association so we sent our lobbyists after them to shut that down. They don't cross over like that very often, but I mean, they were just appalled.
It's so absurd.
Yeah.
It's just absurd. We did.
There was a lot of people working on it.
one of the things that we have when we go out there for the superintendents is a supper, and it's with our district representatives and senators, and we were able to speak with Senator Rowell. And I think he's done a nice job. He's a young guy. He's now a senator. He started out in the House of Representatives. He took the time to have some conversation with us. Common sense guy. Even he shared some concerns about the proposals that are, or the bills that are being proposed. And he said, we're not quite sure what's going on out here, but it seems like the people who are voting for certain members to be in the House and the Senate are really, really angry, and the folks that are okay with how government runs and typically goes, they must not be voting. So what does that say to me? And I can't speak for him, but what I gathered from that is he's maybe not approving of all of the people that are actually serving right now and proposing some of the bills that they're proposing. And I don't know if even the Republican Party knows how to get it under control, if that's what you do. I was just disheartened. You know, you leave at 6 in the morning and you get back at 11 o'clock at night. I only went down the day. I wasn't going to stay overnight. And what a long day. What a long day. Sorry to be so glum, but that's my take on this year's legislative session. So I may be going out another day. We'll see. But
Well, you also think about that, I mean, they make a great point. Just school boards, this is just school boards they don't want talking.
they don't want me driving a school vehicle out there too.
Yeah, singled out public school boards, but you know, a city, a county, everybody else would still be able to, but not your schools. That's really telling something, in my opinion. So.
All right, that's the legislative updates. I don't really have anything else. There's a handful of bills that have been regarding vouchers and homeschooling, things like that. There's been a couple of bills regarding some curriculum guidelines and things that we're required to teach or not required to teach or make sure we can't teach. Most of those usually don't go too far when they get farther on into the legislative session, but nothing that I had that I was, specifically going to state.
What's the new bill now with the homeschooling thing where they want to issue tax credits to the homeowners or the property owners of?
I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen that one?
I know there are some property tax, there are some bills regarding property taxes to bring them down. And there typically are every year. One of the issues that you run into is, it's kind of that Peter to pay Paul thing is, if you lower taxes in a certain area, well, you either cut a lot of programs and cut a lot of things, or you find another revenue. It's the same thing we dealt with when Christy Noem proposed the sales tax elimination, or on groceries and things like that. It's a great concept, but what do you do to replace that revenue? And that lost revenue is probably going to hurt some of the families that have the toughest go in South Dakota already anyway. You might not pay taxes on the groceries, but they're not going to have a lot of other things. So, there's not a whole lot on that. So, we have professional development tomorrow. We actually have in-service. Parent-teacher councils are just finishing up within the next half hour here. SD Stars, we have a representative coming from the state that's going to work with our data team, and then we'll also work with our staff in the afternoon. Our staff with grades 3 through 8 and juniors in language arts and science and math, they all have accounts in SD Stars, so they can go and look at students' scores. So there's teachers from K through 2 that don't have accounts, and then there's some teachers that, the elective teachers, things like that. We expect them to kind of partner up with teachers that do have accounts so they can kind of do this together. Basically what we're trying to do, I asked Mr. Case to kind of lead this cause in the fall. We're trying to get back into the mode of reviewing data on an annual basis, because we haven't been doing that since COVID, basically. We've been reviewing data, but not to the depth that we did prior to that, so that's our goal tomorrow. I'm going to do a little bit of handbook review with the middle school, high school staff. Basically, I've split them up into smaller groups, want them to look at 2-3 pages of the handbook. Some are specifically assigned to groups that would make sense for them to be a part of. And just come up with some suggestions. There's not really been a full-fledged overhaul of our handbook in the time that I've been here. Generally, what we do is each year there's issues that come up or new policies that we need to address from the state level or the federal level. We generally just put those on a piece of notepad and make sure that we include them in the policy manual or the handbooks the following year. So will it come up with anything that's significant and new and great? And I'm guessing not. I think the majority of our policies are doing what we want them to do. One thing I am asking the staff to look at is this policy that we have still relevant? If it's not, what do we need to do to change it? Do we need to keep it? And I want to know some enforceability things too. And that I put back on my teachers' shoulders a fair amount, because if you folks want a certain policy in place as teachers, but you're not willing to enforce it, I'm not going to stop 160 kids coming in the entranceway to make sure that Dr. Block's the one that's taking care of the issue. We have to take care of the issue as a team. And so if it gets to be a situation where they want something but they're not willing to enforce it, well, then I've got a challenge as an administrator to figure out what exactly are we going to do. So, and I also understand, there may be some things that come from the state. I do believe that there's been a bill regarding banning phones in all schools, meaning we don't get the choice locally to decide that. Can I live with that? Absolutely, I can live. Started some review of the contract for another 5 years. Generally, we look at that. It's actually been 10 years since we've started with Cheyenne Transportation, which is surprising. It seems like it was yesterday. So we've been through 2 5-year cycles, and so next year, the 25-26 school year would be the first year of another 5-year cycle. I would assume Kevin is going to come to us with another 5-year proposal. So when we get that from him, we'll review it a little bit more and then obviously have more in-depth discussion. Some of it is negotiation, so it may be done in executive session depending on what we need to discuss. So that's all I have.
Okay, questions for Dr. Block? Thank you, Dr. Block. Principal report, Mr. Case.
Dr. Black did an excellent job of covering a lot of it, so, by the way, it's his birthday today, so. Happy birthday, Dr. Black.
Happy birthday, Jim.
The ski trip we had planned for today was too cold, especially in the morning, so we pushed that back a second time. So we're gonna go on March 7th. We have some high school kids going along on that also. March 10th through the 14th, we have Dakota Players Theater coming in. So we have 2 actors, directors coming in, and we open this up for K through 12 students. Again, this is funded by our Driven Coffee fundraiser with the Student Council. And then we also get half of it paid through a grant that we fill out from the state of South Dakota. And then we have to put them up in housing also. So I forget the title of it, but we're hoping for quite a few participants. We're hoping to get 50 out. But last year we didn't have that many. We probably had 25, I think. So we're hoping some of the middle school and high school kids can come up for that this year. Yeah, tomorrow I think we're going to go over some handbook issues too in the elementary, and we look at it once in a while, but yeah, it's good to have the teachers take a look at it and see if there's changes that need to be made. And along with that, it's also kind of neat to go out to other school districts too and go online and see what they have for their policies too. So that's it, I think.
Some of you might remember that I brought forth that discipline matrix from Watertown. I'm not sold on it like I'm going to push that, but that is part of my review with this, that it was something that I came across that I just kind of like the structure of it, and so I'm going to get a feel to see if the teachers are into it at all, or if they're just like, So when he mentioned other school districts, we can learn a lot from other school districts, but we can also be unique. We don't have to do what everybody else is doing sometimes.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Case? Thank you. NESC,
I don't have anything to report. So,
okay. Buildings and grounds. I think we've been covering that enough as of late. Okay,
I'll just say this, I had a student ask me who's interested in maybe running for student council officers next year. And one thing that they do every year is come to me and ask for, well, can we get this, or can we do this, and can we do that? And one of the things that we have been working on is kind of a commons area for maybe like the juniors and the seniors. I still would like to find something, but unfortunately, one of the ideas that we had is no longer an opportunity. And I was reminded by a student that was asking me questions today. So that area that used to be the hallway, can we move forward on making that into not a lounge, but a commons area for the juniors and seniors and dual credit kids? And I said, unfortunately, that's going to be a pump room now. So that area is gone. So we have to start looking at some other areas as possible. I just had that in my buildings and ground part, was moving the infrastructure up, and then it just happened to be today that somebody came to talk to me about it. I'm like, sorry, that idea's dead. It's gone.
One thing I forgot about Dakota Players Theater also, we're getting supported financially with, from the Webster Arts Council too, so they help us out. They did last year too, so we greatly appreciate that.
If you want to support the Arts Council, always go to their brat feed. It's always good every year.
Yeah.
It's good fundraiser.
okay. Anything else? All right, our next meeting we said was what date?
March 10th?
March 10th. Sound good with everybody?
There
Okay,
is a chance I won't be here. I don't know yet for sure though, so just leave it scheduled. I'll try to be back.
okay. All right, that's all we have. Motion to move into executive session for personnel and admin evaluations.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second?